I'm excited. This is the beginning of something old but new with me. Some of you guys might not know this. I used to do front of house sound when I was a kid at a mega church. And we had this exact same console. This is the Roland VMC-7200. Okay, this has got all the effects and all the different processor stuff in it. They made two versions of this console, the VM-7200 and the VMC-7200. I got the VMC-7200. The one that we had at the church was the VMC-7200, or the VM-7200. There was no C. The one that was at the church had a maximum of 48 channels. The VMC, because it's the expanded higher dollar version, can do out to 94. I'm looking for pieces for this. There's a meter bar that goes with this. It's called an MB24. This is only half of the unit. Roland was the first onto this market share, or pretty close to the first one on the market share for digital mixing consoles. This is like a keyboard. The computer is a whole nother piece. I'm going to get that out here in a minute. But I'm unboxing everything. The guy took the side rails off of it and he took the front bumpers off of it. I still haven't found the hardware. So this is new to me. The idea here for me in my mind is that I want to be able to go back to something I know. I know this console. My hard drive in my head is full, right? I don't want to learn another system. I'm not interested in it, right? So I thought, let's go back to what we know. So wouldn't you know it, I go on and look, because I've had one of these on a watch list for probably 8 years on eBay. And I was constantly getting notifications, new VM-7200, and I just ignored it because I'm like, number one, I don't have the time. Number two, I don't have the space. Number three, I don't have a need for it. But I've always wanted to get one of these back. When the church finally replaced this with a normal console that normal mortals could figure out how to run, I wanted to buy that unit. But when that time came, I wasn't around to, yeah. So here we are today. Now, in typical BBI fashion, I can't have anything nice show up in the mail and it not be broken just a little bit. I cannot move the sliders any farther down than this. They're dragging on the paint. And I thought, okay, it took a hit in shipping. Let's go figure this out. So, being that I was a kid, I took one of these apart. Now we're talking almost 30 years ago, I took one of these apart. When this was new, this control unit in 2000 cost almost $3,000, just this control unit. The processor without any of the upgrades in it was like another $2,000. And then if you had more than one processor, how it works is you have one bank of 24, another bank of 24, and another bank of 24, another bank of 24. In the processing units, each processing unit is full digital. This is a full digital motorized memory console. This was so far ahead of the game, it took everybody quite a hot minute to catch up to this. It's got wood side bumpers and little leather hand rest that I've got. The only thing that out of this I don't have is the VC or VE, the VE-7000 channel controller, which I could totally get into that. It's really neat. And the MB24 metering board. Now, I did find a guy on Facebook that has one for sale, but for what I paid for this console, he wants more than what I paid for the console and the digital unit for the meter bar. And they're just very rare, is what they are. It's old LED segment-driven channel display. Old peak display. Shows you if you're oversaturated on a channel and shows you what your main signals are and gives you a timestamp and a time code. And if you're going to do a digital recording, you can use this for that. Or the way we were using it for live is we would do our recording and use the timestamp for us to mark. That was before YouTube, and I mean, this is so ahead of its time. So I took it out of the box and I noticed I couldn't move the console sliders, and I noticed that all the push buttons for the FlexBus memories are all hanging down loose. And I said, well, let's take it apart. Because I'm not into this for very much. This whole unit, they're cheap. They're This unit's like, you can find them anywhere used in the used market from $300–400 all the way out to about $500–600. The cheaper ones, people have smoked around them and the knobs turn gray. I have a thing with that. I don't like to have cigarette stained shit. This is me. So I paid a little bit more for this unit. It was packaged okay, I'll say that. But I remember taking one of these apart and I thought, you know, as a kid, we kind of had this end of the console starting to sag a little bit. And I remember when we ordered the fix for that, we called Roland when they still supported this. And Roland said, oh yeah, we've got a fix for that, we'll send it out to you. So they sent it out to us, and all we got were these hard styrofoam blocks. Let me show you how this works. So I already have the back off this unit. Let's turn this around. These are your motor-driven servos that run your faders. This little memory block, there should be one down here, like so, that's held in place by one of the case screws. So this is fader 1, 2, 3, 4. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way down to 24. Where are the other foam blocks that hold the board up? See, this board, look at this, it can flex. But with a little foam board down in there, this sits solid. So I'm like, okay, but for what I paid for this, I can't cry. The other reason I wanted to take this apart and take the back off and look at it is because of this. The death of most of electronics. The capacitors. I want to visually inspect and make sure we have no splitted, no heated, no... This is just a heat shrink wrap. If the cap goes bad, the cap gets hot, it'll split this heat shrink, and it's a pretty good screaming indicator, hey, there's a problem. So I'd rather look at this other than just plug it in and power it on and quietly pray that the thing works. Now the guy that sold me this unit was cool enough to plug it in and kind of give me an update video and show that everything moved. This thing is completely not supported by Roland by 15 years. So, doing what I do here for a living, I got all kinds of foam and stuff. And you want to be very careful because the servos in here do get warm. There's very little airflow through this thing. And the whole idea is just to prop up. There's a two-piece unit in here. Let me show you. Now, if I hadn't dealt with this when I was a kid, I'd be filing an eBay claim. But since I'm an adult now, see how this all moves? So if we take and we just simply create a wedge that can sit between the bottom lip of the cabinet and the front board of the cabinet, all the way along the inside of this, we'll put a little support out here, another one here, and there was 4 of them. One sat here, another one sat here, another one sat here, and another one sat here. I have a very good friend of mine. He's a very famous audio engineer and a very famous musician. I was discussing this with him. I said, dude, my hard drive is full. I don't want to learn another digital system. I don't. Everybody from this point forward went digital, because as soon as they saw the advantages to this style of system, the industry, gone. Analog board, gone. Then they recreate the analog board with a bunch of knobs that all move. Well, I told him, I said, dude, my hard drive is full. I'm an old man now. I don't want to learn anything new. I'm grumpy. I'm slightly angry most of the time, but I love my life. I said, so what I want to do is I want to recreate a little bit of my youth, and in the same breath, I don't want to learn anything new. Now, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. To go from an analog console to this thing, the learning curve is deep, vast, and wide. It's tough. We'll get into how this works, but first I wanted to show you the repair. So as we can see, this foam block is, well, collapsed itself. So we're going to create ourselves some probably plastic cardboard spacers. And I thought, man, you know, I've got an awful lot of this material from all my HG transistors. What if I take and I stack 4 or 5 layers of this together, custom cut to the right height, maybe tack them together with a little bit of super glue, or even better, like, I don't know, some magical stuff called Kapton that has a very high dielectric to it and I don't have to worry about anything conducting, and slide it in here and put wedges just like you would get from Roland. Because if I powered this thing up the way it sits now, the sliders are going to drag and they're going to screw up the perfect paint that's on the front, and we don't want that. So let me see, from the mind of BBI, if I can create something that will work perfectly. And I'm sure that I can. I just don't see any support tabs or ears or anything that would tie that substrate panel I guess this is the way. You know, I remember doing this once when I was a kid, like when I was like, oh shoot, what was I? 20, I think. So technically I was an adult. Okay, so what I've done is I've created, this is plastic. We don't want to go stick wood. I have a friend that's here and he says, well man, why don't you cut some of that GA17 hard high temp fiberglass and stuff it down in there? I don't want that. I think honestly that the Roland guys were thinking about a certain textile feedback or texture feedback with the sliders, because the sliders they're not rough. You can like you tap on them and they can move, right? I don't want to create anything, you know, that you can't crush this direction and not have a little bit of give to it. In the same breath, I don't want to stick any metal, no wood, no way. So I cut every one of these to be a certain height and to put just the right amount of pressure to hold the board up. I took 3 layers of this plastic cardboard and then put Kapton tape. I mean, why not? It got us on the moon through the 80s, 70s. I put Kapton tape on it to hold it together, and then I put a little piece of VHB double-sided stick tape to help hold it up against the wall, even though it's not really necessary once this gets in there. Still, plan for the worst, pray for the best. Yeah, the only channels, the only sliders that moved freely were the ones that were down here. Absolutely down here. So, I'm just going to point that out. I think that whoever this came from, yeah, anyhow. Needless to say, it's here, and I just fix things. I make things more awesome. It is kind of, no, come here. Kind of what I do. So I think I've thought about this in all aspects. I want to put this here. And you must go here. Hi.
Tim had a bath.
He did have a bath. Hold on, guys. We'll be right back. My dog just popped out here. The kid works at a dog groomer, and apparently she took my dog to the groomers this morning and gave him a bath. So he's looking all pretty. His nails are all trimmed, and he's all just like happy as a clam. Okay. Once again, that one's trimmed just a little bit too long. You can't see it, but there's, well, come on, slide it, there we go. There's little tabs that we're pushing against on the back side of the slider controls. So we'll put the stock one back into place. There's little tabs that we're pushing against where the fader banks, servo-driven fader banks, these things here, the VMC-7200 motor CPU board, made in Japan. I've learned a lot about how to search for this stuff in the last couple days. Did you know that they use Yahoo as their version of eBay in Japan? That digital mixing console board, the MB24 that I'm looking for, the metering board, I missed out on one of those by 4 days. And it sold for like 28,000 yen or 18,000 yen or whatever it was. Well, when you convert that to US dollars, it's like 300 and some dollars. Yeah, I was so pissed. I did notice that this was bent, so we went ahead and it's basically made of tinfoil, right? Just reached in here with my thumb, bent it up, then re-squared this up. This here is where it makes contact with the back support, so the whole center of the console was supported off these two ears. But with our created for the moon tape and chemical engineered plastic cardboard, all the sliders now sit the right height above the channels, because quite a few of them were pulled up to make it so the channels could slide. I think the gentleman that had this before me didn't understand what was going on internally, and he was primarily using these sliders down here. But now they move freely. These here, surround down depth, the preamp gain, our flex bus controls, Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4, group fader, master 1 through 24, multiple in 1 through 24, input through 1 through 24, and then flip. The flip button is really handy to have, right? All of these are now sitting up at the right height, and everything is solid. So if you got a VM-c7200 and your channels are starting to drag a little bit, replace your foam. That's the point. All right, let me put the back on this thing. I feel very confident that I can power this up and the power supply is not going to go boom. There is aftermarket displays, which I'm planning on getting for this. It makes this much brighter and easier for you to see. You got to remember, we've come a little bit of ways, a long ways in displays since the late 1990s, early 2000s. I think that we can all agree on that. This thing is clean. It's got one little bink in the middle right here, and I don't care anything about any of that. This thing is clean and straight. It does have the armrest that came with it. I just haven't found the hardware for it yet. Hopefully it's in the next box. This vinyl can get torn stupid easy. And this is all OG and in mint condition. I'm so excited about that. The side rail stops are not all boogered off. There's a couple little dings in them, but the console actually sits up on these side rails, so it tilts up towards you. Like I said, I'm only missing those two parts. The VE-7000 and then the MB-2000 metering board, which I did find one. There was a gentleman that's kind enough that he's trying to sell it to me, but damn, man, for what I paid for this, I bought the whole unit. Plus the brain unit, the digital control unit for it, for less than what he wants for the metering board. And I'm like, man. How I found him was through Facebook, and I found a couple different rolling groups and started putting in there that I was looking for the metering board, and a couple gentlemen show up and they're like, man, that's like trying to find gold. And one guy's like, well, I'll sell you mine that I got for $1,900, and another gentleman that was cool enough, he goes, well, I'll sell you mine for $850. The right thing will present itself. It always does. With patience. With patience. All right, let me put the back on this and let me get the digital interface unpacked, and let's see if we can find the special low loss XLR cables that go from this thing to the digital control. And let's power it up. Let's see what it does. Okay, so the details do matter, and I missed a detail. This is the Roland VM-c7200 48 channel mixing processor unit. This is a standard unit. They made a VM-c7200 94 channel processor unit. The only difference between this unit and the other unit are the add-on cards that are on the inside. So these are our effects consoles that we can plug in. Okay, this is another expansion console, and then this is the Tascam interface that goes to the back, and it runs on a computer DIN plug Since we're not going to interface with a Tascam recorder, I don't need to spend the money to buy this. But the effects consoles, this will affect, they break the board up into 3 separate segments. So we'll just say this segment, and this segment, and then the last set of segments. You can take your effects, which is like 6,800 different effects, and you can plug it into, let's say, this bank over here, and it's going to affect this bank of, let's say, 1 through 8 or 1 through 9 or whatever worth of inputs, and you can apply those effects to all of these inputs, right? So we're missing those effects cards. That's okay, they're only about $71 a piece, and there's still a lot of them available. A lot of this stuff is available still in Japan, like big time. So we've got that going on. Then over here, there was an internal hard drive expansion that nobody ever used, and it wasn't very well supported. Hold on a second. I got my buddy Alex, Spaceman, here with me today. He just walked out and he's on the phone. I'm sitting there staring at him. Well, dude, I'm recording. If I remember correctly, there was a hard drive expansion or something that went in this slot, but it wasn't used, right? Nobody ever used it. So I'm going to spend $200 and some today. I'm going to get the expansion cards that click into here. Once again, wanted to take a look at all the filter capacitors and make sure nothing was split or nothing's gotten hot. Its power supply is in this little shielded cabinet. We're not going to rip it apart. We're going to full yeet it and see what happens. But this looks good. Let's see, we had a problem when I was a kid with some of these XLR inputs, developing cold solder joints on the board, which at the time, this kind of surface mount technology, not a lot of people had the ability to solder it. I remember late 90s. I mean, there was a lot of guys that knew how to solder it, but the equipment wasn't as cheap as it is today. I can solder anything, anywhere, for any reason, upside down, painted purple hanging from my big toe. So I'm not too concerned with that. The parts are really cheap, is what I'm getting at. I'm going to button this up. Yeah, we can turn it on. We'll put it through its demo mode and a couple other things, and then I'll let you guys go. But this is going to radically change my audio on the air, and this is radically going to change how I mix the audio from the YouTube videos, how I do a lot of things in post. This is a huge step forward for me. And I've been avoiding trying to do this route, and I finally just decided to cave and let's do it. It's going to make life easier for me all the way around. But on the downside, I am going to sell off all my Collins radio equipment because I plan to put this right where I have all my antique Collins equipment. So keep an eye out for that. I have no desire or need. I've owned that stuff for like 8 years, and I've never even turned it on. It all works, just never turned it on. All right, let's get the lid on it and let's get this thing going. It's taking me just a minute to remember how to do everything, but everything booted, no problem. I'm so excited because all the channels do what they're supposed to do. We only have one digital unit, so for us to go down to our second unit or second tier is not existent. But I can go here and go here. It took me a few minutes to remember how to do this. And there's literally like no YouTube videos on this. There's like one on this whole console, and the guy doesn't speak, and it's all in Chinese. So we go up here and we'll go to fader display, which is 3. And then we're in this top window. We get up there by using our cursor panels. We get up here, and then I can hit this. And we go to demo mode. And we change the style of the demo. This was such a huge step forward. Now this is common. All digital consoles are this way. I'm going to change it back to being kind of a little bit crazy here. This was such a huge leap forward when they came out with this. Not even lying. But to have all of these servos working, all the sliders working, nothing dragging. I've been through and physically punched every single button. I don't have to fix any LEDs. My friend that's here, he's like, man, wouldn't it be neat if you backlit this LED? It might be. It's nothing I'm going to do today. I've just been waiting for weeks for this thing to show up, because the guy literally sent it as slow as it possibly could get here. You know what I'm saying? Look at that. I think that's cool. Anyhow, gentlemen, I got to put this away and shelve it for probably about a month or so. I got offered this at such a good deal I couldn't say no when I got it. I've got to get some effects cards for it. I don't know if I'm going to do the Tascam interface expansion on the inside of it, because, well, I'm not going to use any Tascam equipment attached to this. I am looking to get one of the Roland hard drive units that goes with this for output flex bus controlled recording. Although today we would just take and dump it into a computer. The hard drives, I don't even know if they're going to be worth anything, or if we could even interface with them. That's a learning curve that I need to overcome some other time. That metering board, though, I gotta have that. I gotta have the metering board. Gotta have it. So we'll see. Maybe I can find a good deal out of Japan. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Gentlemen, thank you for tuning in, following along. There's more to come on this. My whole station is going to go through this. All my computers are going to go through this. Everything is going to go through this. And right now I have call for 23 out of 24 channels. So I will probably be buying a second mixing console, and then I'll have all of my recording stuff on one bank, channels 1 through 24, all my audio from all my different inputs that I want to have on the second bank. But that's for in the future. I don't know how many money I can put at this at the moment. I've got other things that I need to be focused on. So thank you for following along, and hopefully somebody out there that their sliders are starting to drag, I helped you be able to get that figured out on how to fix it. I'll see you guys. Click.